Spring Lake. He's the ex-mayor and he passed away on Friday. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jean, would you do the roll call?
Mr. Campion? Mr. Herner?
Here.
Mr. Merrickin?
Here.
Mr. Schuler?
Here.
Mr. Horvath, absent. Mayor O'Brien, absent. Councilwoman King, acting mayor.
Okay, I'm going to read the statement of compliance.
She's here, Councilwoman King.
Yes, I'm for the Open Public Meetings Act. Pursuant to the requirements of the New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice filed in the office of the Borough Clerk, posted on the Borough website and on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Coast Star newspaper, and mailed to those requesting notice and providing payment in accordance with borough policy. I'd like well, Gary, how should I do this? We're gonna amend the agenda.
You're going to need to motion to approve the agenda as amended to have the introduction of the cap bank ordinance and the budget resolution.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Now a second.
Second.
Roll call, Janine.
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. Merrickin?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'd like a motion and a second to approve the minutes from March 14th,
I'll make that
2016, both the executive and regular session. Second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. Merrickin?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
We don't have any presentations, and we have no scheduled public hearings. That brings us to the public comment portion of the meeting on agenda items only. If anyone wishes to make a comment, please come forward, state your name and address.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Charles Stewart,
Mhm.
122 Walnut Drive, Spring Lake, Mass. I'm also the owner of Block 73, Lot 4.02. And I know that it was on the agenda this evening, and I was told that there's not a quorum, so I didn't know if it was really appropriate to discuss it or not at this point. I'm sure you all know the property that I'm talking about, right?
Well, we do have a couple of new council members that we're bringing on board and filling them in with the information in reference to this.
Okay.
But we also have a couple of council members, including the mayor, because I'm only the acting mayor tonight, who are not here, and two other council members. So I think at this point, it probably would be better if we address this hopefully at the next meeting.
At the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, because I got my minor subdivision approval in December of 2014.
Mhm.
And since that time, we've been trying to work out access to the property.
Correct.
And we did a title opinion on the property that showed that the borough owns that parcel on Route 71.
Right.
And for the last 8 months, not one thing has happened. I haven't had any idea. We had talked about granting me an easement across that property to access my property.
Mhm.
And for over 7 months, not one thing has happened. And I'm getting to the point now where I just don't know what to do. So I came tonight to talk to you guys about it and to see if there's anything that you can do to help me to move this along. And because it's just taking an inordinate amount of time. And I'm at the point where I'm beginning to get extremely frustrated. And I don't really even know what to do anymore.
Mr. Stewart, we understand your concern, but like I said, we did have to bring some new members of council up to date on everything,
Okay.
which we have done as recently as even tonight with more information. Mr. Delaney has been researching a few things, and so is our borough attorney. And if we had additional members here tonight, we probably would be in a better position, but I think it's beneficial that we postpone this until our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
So at the next meeting, I can come and present?
What I would do is I would contact Mr. Delaney and make sure that, that's going to be a good possibility. I don't see why it won't be. It just happens to be vacation time, so some people are on vacation.
Sure.
So I would really think that we would have a bigger majority to deal with this matter at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Sorry to inconvenience you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have anything that they would wish to discuss in regards to tonight's agenda? Okay, if not, I'd like a motion and a second to close that portion of the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and Janine, can I have a roll call?
Who was the second?
Jimmy.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Now we come to our discussion items, and the first item up for discussion is the community center improvements. And Jay, are you addressing that?
I'll provide an introduction. Distributed to the council are several orders of packet of information. I think the council is aware that as recently as during a meeting in late February, we received the authorization from the CDBG program to proceed with this project. You'll see from the summary, the finance summary sheet and action required note, it was last June that we authorized the grant agreement with CDBG. The background on that is that initially the funding was inadequate at the county level to provide us with funding under the fiscal year 2015 CDBG cycle. Additional funds became available, and last summer the county indicated that it looked like there would be sufficient funding to provide $156,786 towards the improvements that were planned at the community center. Since we last met, we have received a proposal for architectural services for the first phase of this to actually prepare the bid specifications and the design and construction plans, and that information has been distributed as well. We've also proposed an estimated cost based on the preliminary budget that the architect has provided us. Total cost exceeds just over $400,000. We are expecting or proposing that the grant funds be supplemented with $43,000 from the borough's capital surplus fund, and then an additional $200,000 from our open space recreation trust fund, as outlined in the summary sheet. At this time, what is on the agenda is the authorization to appropriate $12,500 of that $200,000 amount, and that will provide us with the funding to proceed with the architectural services. Happy to answer any questions that there may be.
Anybody have any questions?
I don't know.
We're working on a schedule that presumably we would be prepared to go to bid late spring, early summer, with construction commencing sometime in summer, early fall of this year.
August?
Well, again, it's a tight schedule. It really depends on how quickly the architect can provide us with the details, but that is certainly where we expect to be. It could be as early as July for going out to bid in the roof.
Now, Jay, when this project begins, do we have any kind of an estimated time frame as to how long the community center will be shut down?
That's part of what the architect will provide us based on preliminary discussions. We expect that the construction timeframe would be a minimum of 90 days and could be as 3 months and could be as many as 5 to 6 months. Again, there are a number of issues that the architect will address. The project is presumed to include a number of alternate bid items so that if the prices come in above what we anticipate the budget to be, we may scale back somewhat.
If it goes beyond that, that's a problem in November on the voting, doesn't it?
It does. Based on the preliminary discussions with the architect, he did not see November being an issue.
Depends on where you're working on too, because there's only a small part of the center's being used on election day.
Yes.
Restrooms and the hall is ready. This addition on the back, we don't have any influence on
And at some point, once we do have a more definitive schedule, we will also stop taking reservations for use of the community center, which again, our time frame in terms of best time of year given the use would be as of July 1 before school season starts. I'm sorry, once the summer season starts, have the construction take place, the majority during the summer months.
All right, now Jay, did you want, since we're going to introduce the budget tonight, did you want to address a little bit of that
Certainly.
under our discussion? And I know John Barrett is here with us also, so.
Yes. John Barrett, PM Consultants, is also present. In anticipation, it was not anticipated the budget would be introduced this evening, giving the question as to attendance and whether we would actually have a quorum. But now the council decided to proceed. What has been distributed to the governing body is a fairly voluminous information regarding background on the budget, specifically the budget document that has been distributed, which we would also, it was distributed without introduction dates, so we'll add those as we go along. The budget that's proposed provides for a tax rate increase of just under 2 cents, provides for level funding of our existing level of services, and provides for a substantial amount of capital funding on both the current side, the tax-supported budget, as well as the water sewer utility, which is supported by the revenues and fees from the utility operations. Again, I don't know how much detail you wish to go into. At this point, it should be noted that as part of the budget process, there is a period, a 28-day waiting period between the date of introduction and the date of the public hearing. If the introduction does proceed this evening, the public hearing would be scheduled for our second meeting in April, which I believe is the 25th of April. And at our next meeting, scheduled meeting on April 11th, we have a detailed discussion, presentation, and questions and comments from the council.
I believe our intention tonight is just to start that clock.
Correct.
To start the process, not answer, we still have to go through all the volumes of information, but get out of the weeds and get into the numbers now, and we start it, so.
On behalf of Chris Campion, who is the financial chair here on the council, I just want to say that I did speak with him this afternoon, and he said that if it was at all possible for us to move forward with an introduction this evening, he was totally in favor of that, knowing full well that the next couple of meetings, we will be getting into the meat of the subject, and people can ask questions, we can have discussion back and forth, and really see if we have to make any kind of changes. But for all intents and purposes, as Jay just mentioned, it is very beneficial that we at least get this introduced tonight so that we don't get ourselves locked into any kind of a time constraint. John, do you wish to?
Council President Acting there, and by the way, welcome Mr. Herner and Mr. Merkin.
Thank you.
I look forward to working with you. Your new addition since the last time I was here. To dovetail off Jay's point in the consensus of the governing body, the best practices questionnaire is something that we have to answer to get a full allotment of our state aid. The statutory deadlines were delayed this year so that by introducing timely tonight, we start the clock going, and we also get, once again, credit for that on the best practices questionnaire. So it's in the best interest of the township, of the borough to do this. In addition, one of the things that we routinely do every year is the COLA ordinance, which is basically allotting inside the cap appropriations to increase to the statutory maximum. That doesn't mean we need that, but it provides a bank so that in future years, should we have a spike in fuel costs or something that was not handled by a special emergency declaration, that we have an appropriation bank in order to tap into. So, as I said, that's also on your agenda for introduction, and then we'll have a public hearing at a later date.
Okay. All right.
And just on that note, I would suggest that, because they are interrelated, that the public hearing on the cap ordinance should be held until the public hearing on the budget itself. That would be out of cycle. Our normal routine would be to have the public hearing on the ordinance scheduled 2 weeks from tonight, but rather because they are integrated, that the hearing on the cap ordinance also be held the same night that we hold the hearing on the budget.
And you've also asked that the introduction on the cap bank ordinance is done prior to the formal introduction of the budget on tonight's agenda.
Now, Gary, should we do those two now?
No, you can continue to follow the agenda, I mean,
And we'll do those?
and you'll do them as they would normally.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Joan. Now we come to the council's reports. Robert Merkin?
Nothing to report, the utility crew is currently replacing the bad meters, the bad fire hydrants as we get them. And we're gonna keep going.
Good, good. Jim Shore?
No, I have nothing to report.
Art Turner?
Not this time.
Okay. The only thing that I have to report is, last Wednesday, there was a representative from the Monmouth County Sheriff's Office that came here and did mandatory training with our police department on special needs. That special needs includes all kinds of special needs for various age groups and disabilities. And the county is going to be setting up a website, hopefully sometime in April or May. And if you want to register, you're going to be able to register on that website. It won't be anything done through here, it will be done through the county. But I just wanted to make that announcement because it seems that we've had a few little spurts here and there about autism and disabilities and various things. And I just wanted to let everyone know that our police department is right up there in their training and moving along where they should be. And that's all I have on that. Okay, reports. Did everybody read the thank you letter from Anthony Santos for Teens for Jeans campaign? And then we have the letter from New Jersey Department of Transportation, initiation of proceedings for Warren Avenue Railroad Crossing, and then the public notice, Spring Lake Heights Board of Education revised meeting schedule. Okay. And ordinance introductions. We don't have any there. Well, is that a COLA ordinance? That's a COLA ordinance, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So what number is that going to be, Jenny?
2016-01.
2016-01. Can you read that, please?
An ordinance to exceed the municipal appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank 2016 pursuant to NJSA 48:4-45.14. Whereas the local government cap law, NJSA 48:4-45.1, provides that in the preparation of its annual budget, a municipality shall limit any increase in said budget up to 0% unless authorized by ordinance to increase it to 3.5% over the previous year's final appropriations, subject to certain exceptions. And whereas NJSA 48:4-45.15A provides that a municipality may, when authorized by ordinance, appropriate the difference between the amount of its actual final appropriation and the 3.5% rate as an exception to its final appropriations in either of the next two succeeding years. And whereas the Borough Council of the Borough of Spring Lake Heights in the County of Monmouth finds it advisable and necessary to increase its calendar year 2016 budget by up to 3.5% over the previous year's final appropriations in the interest of promoting the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. And whereas the Borough Council hereby determines that a 3.5 increase in the budget for said year amounting to $163,706 in excess of the increase in final appropriations otherwise permitted by the local government cap law is advisable and necessary. And whereas the Borough Council hereby determines that any amount authorized here and above that is not appropriate as part of the final budget shall be retained as an exception to final appropriation in either of the next two succeeding years. Now therefore be it ordained by the Borough of Spring Lake Heights in the County of Monmouth a majority of the full authorized membership of this governing body affirmatively concurring that in the calendar year 2016 budget year, the final appropriations of Borough of Spring Lake Heights shall, in accordance with this ordinance and NJSA 48:4-45.14, be increased by 3.5%, amounting to $163,706, and that the calendar year 2016 municipal budget for the Borough of Spring Lake Heights be approved and adopted in accordance with this ordinance. And be it further ordained that any amount authorized here and above that is not appropriated as part of the final budget shall be retained as an exception to final appropriation in either of the next 2 succeeding years. And be it further ordained that a certified copy of this ordinance as introduced be filed with the Director of the Division of Local Government Services within 5 days of introduction. Be it further ordained that a certified copy of this ordinance upon adoption with a recorded vote included thereon be filed with said director within 5 days after such adoption.
Okay, can I have
I'll make a motion.
a second?
I'll second.
You have questions? Can you give me a short version of this? First I'm looking at it. Everyone else is much clearer on it than I am.
Council, having run the Department of Public Works officially in this town, every department benefits from this COLA ordinance. Generally, the state basically strikes a percentage every year. Sometimes it's 1%, it can go up to 3.5%. For the first time in a long time, it's at 0. So what this does is allows us to increase inside the cap appropriations, of which your former department does well, and utilize that to cover the cost of, say, increased salaries and wages for contractual obligations, for other expense-related items, variables that go up in fees. The extent of which the clerk so nicely read through gave us a $163,000 figure. The total cap bank that we have remaining is $119,000 from 2015. So what that does is gives us, it's not saying that we're just increasing appropriations because of this ordinance. It's the best practices, in my opinion, way to handle a municipal budget so that you can basically plan for possible future issues moving forward. So the good news is that both on the levy cap and the levy cap we have is calculating at $127,000 worth of taxing power for the municipality. I'm sure it would be popular to raise taxes to $127 just because you have the appropriation. So I think the administration's done a great job as far as keeping a line on the appropriations, and therefore you have these cap banks available moving forward. So it's one of those things, people say, well, where's the money? It's a bank. It's just one of those jargons from the state that basically allows us to, it's a tool, and it's the best practices tool, in my opinion, out of many other municipalities. It's a standard practice year over year. So since I've been here and since 08, 09, this has been successful for us.
Thank you.
Okay, did we get the motion in second?
We did.
I'll make that, yeah.
Okay, roll call?
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now we're going to come to the resolutions for tonight. First resolution, R 2016-70, approving use of community center, Tiny Treasures Nursery School. Can I have a motion and a
I'll make
second?
the motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2016-71, approving use of Ocean Road Park Tennis Courts, Spring Lake Heights School District.
I'll make the
Motion and a
motion.
second.
I'll second.
Roll
Mr.
call?
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2016-72, approving membership in the fire department, Reynolds, Jeschonic, I think it is, and Bauer. Can I have a motion and a second?
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call?
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion
Good.
passes.
Resolution 2016-73, authorizing submission of 2015 recycling tonnage grant application.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2016-74, authorizing a contract for architectural services for planned improvements to Cornelius V. Kelly Community Center.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2016-75, authorizing additional temporary budget appropriations pending adoption of 2016 municipal budget.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2016-76, authorizing the payment of claims on the March 24th, 2016 bill list.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Resolution 2016-77, introduction of the 2016 municipal budget.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Just before we do that, at the appropriate locations, specifically on pages, what is marked as sheet 2, which is the second page. This is going to indicate today's date as the date of introduction, with a public hearing to be held on April 25th at 8 p.m. here in the municipal building.
What?
April 20th.
20.
Sorry. My apologies. April 25th.
So the public hearing will be the 25th of April?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then additionally, on that same sheet, it indicates that will be published in the April 14th issue of the Coast Guard newspaper. And that complies with all of the various requirements in terms of the public hearing date as well as the date of publication prior to the hearing.
Okay.
So we had a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. American?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Now we come to the second public comment section, which you can discuss any item that you wish. Anybody want to come forward? Give your name and address, please.
Eileen Allenberger, about 13 Pond Road. Last week, it came under discussion about the living shoreline and the berm project from the Rec Pond Group that's taking place. I just wanted to let you know that I just got an email from the group saying that they just released their report on it. It's available. I have the did you make sure that you probably got it? Yeah, so if you wanted to look it up, but I attend almost all those meetings. I have been for at least 5 years, probably longer. And so what's coming up now is a pilot project. That's going to be done this summer, this spring. That it's going to be, you know where Shore Road curves around?
That curves just in Spring Lake though, doesn't it?
That's in Spring Lake, you know, where you go into Spring Lake, curves around where it meets Ocean Road.
Right.
And there's that low kind of sandy spot there. That's where the pilot project will be for this summer.
But should it be
But then-
successful, the second
then
phase would be
In this next spring,
in spring.
right, in Spring Lake Heights, all the way around it.
Okay.
So, and I believe, I know, Jay, you're on the email list, right?
Yes.
And they meet, well, we used to meet every third Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock. Now they meet every other month on the third Wednesday in the Wall Municipal Building. So if anybody ever has any, questions or anything, anybody's free to come to the meeting. Just so.
Well, it's a great group. I attended that meetings for years.
Yeah.
It's great, yeah.
And,
I believe we're having a presentation, right?
Yes, just if I may, at the request that was made at the last meeting, I reached out to Turner Shell, who is the Monmouth County Planning Department's representative, as well as Peter Avakian of Avakian Engineering is the lead coordinating person between
With the project.
the county, Spring Lake, and the other entities that are involved. They are available and have offered to do a presentation here at one of our public meetings. Again, with the uncertainty as to our budget introduction and review date, we've left it open, but.
Let's go.
But it is.
And we have time.
Yeah, and I do mention to them all the time about Spring Lake Heights and, you know, you have to consider us when
You have to,
you.
you have to remind them.
Yes, I have to remind my
Yeah.
mention to Peter.
That's right.
So they said, don't worry, I know we're around. Anyway, I just wanted
Very
to
good.
let
Thanks,
you know.
Eileen.
And like I
Thank you
said,
very
Jim-
much.
Yeah, it has the whole report on it, so you can just go to the website and, you know, look at it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'd like a motion and a second to close the public comment.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, Janine?
Mr. Herner?
Yes.
Mr. Marion?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I need a second, okay. Everybody in favor?
I'm in favor.
Okay.
Good, nice to see you.